In Chapter 7, we look at how societies are divided, the real divisions that have impact on groups of people and often inequalities in society. In order to think about social divisions, we have to recognise that the goodies of society, the privileges and capitals that we have in society, aren't shared out equally. Not everyone has a fair start in life, and not everyone has equally good lives in society. And to understand this unfair or uneven distribution of these things, we need to look at power. We need to have a sociological understanding of what power is. At its simplest level, power is the production of intended effects, or to be able to get what you want even if someone else doesn't want that. Sociological theories of power have developed much more than that, become really quite complex, and we look at those in the book and discuss that in this chapter. But we focus now more on the ways in which this power is used to structure society. And the three core ways that we focus in this chapter are based on race, gender, and class. Now, there are others we could have focused on, and there are others you could look at in further reading, around religion, for example, around countries and nation states, but these are the three we're focusing on now. So the first core issue we focus on in terms of divided societies is that of class. Partly that's because, going back to Karl Marx and kind of the birth of sociology we discussed in Chapter 2, the economy and how money has been unevenly distributed is a core way in which societies are divided. And that has been central to sociology, particularly British sociology. But something that's important that has emerged is that when we talk about class, we're not just talking about your financial wealth or how much money you have or how much property you own. There are social dimensions to class as well. And we really focus on this in the chapter by looking at the work of Pierre Bourdieu. And he talks about different capitals. So there is an economic capital, how much money you have, but there's cultural capital, social capital, and symbolic capital. I'm not going to go into all of those now, but it's to recognise that who you know matters in terms of what life chances you have, where your degree is from, or whether you have a degree. It's not just the skills you have with that, but the status that that confers. And so in order to understand how societies are divided by class, why middle class people and upper class people tend to receive better things from society and from governments and institutions than working class people, we need to be able to have that sociological understanding. The second area we look at is that of race. Now, race really came and took on importance and emerged even as an idea as the global slave trade occurred and as European traders conquered America and other countries. Race became so valued because it was the thing that legitimized slavery, because it was through racist ideas that groups of people could be deemed as less worthy than other groups of people. So that's why when we talk about race, some people will put race in quotes and other people will use ethnicity to talk about issues. But then the other key way that is used to understand this is with the term critical ahead of it. So to say that, and that critical is to recognise that social justice element and to recognise the deeply problematic way in which race emerged as a term. And so critical race theory placed race as the primary lens of analysis. And it said we need to understand, if we want to understand society, we have to think about race and about who is gaining from these decisions in racial terms. And that's been a really important strain of theory in this area, and we cover it in the book in detail. But then black feminist thought came alongside that and argued that while race is of fundamental importance, it shouldn't be at the expense of other ways of thinking. And so black feminist thought said actually gender and class and sexuality are other key ways of understanding society. And the concept they use, which is really important here, is intersectionality, is this idea that different forms of oppression don't just stack on top of each other, but that they act synergistically to produce something different. And that can mean that if you are a gay man, your experiences will be very different if you're rich and white and living in England versus if you are poor and black and living in a homophobic country in a different part of the world. So intersectionality recognises how these things will be different in different contexts. And building on that kind of idea of black feminist thought, the third core area we look at is that of gender, looking at how power and privilege is unevenly distributed based on one's sex. Just like with understandings of race, these theories of gender speak to issues of social construction, how there are some biological realities to being a person of colour or being a particular gender, but the meanings and the inequalities that we see in society have nothing to do with that biology, but are the result of social structures, interactions, and social histories that have led to these differences. And in the section on gender, we focus as well on the political action around this. So we look at feminism and how there are 3 stages of feminism that have sought to contest and challenge inequality by gender. Sadly, there are many other topics we could have focused on in this chapter on how societies are divided. What we've provided here, though, is a conceptual and sociological framework by which you can understand such inequalities, and we hope that you take these ideas and reflect on them in your life and in understanding societies around you.